let's talk about what I've been working on in February. So welcome back to any returning viewers, to any new viewers, a very warm welcome to you. Today we're taking a look at all the things that I've been working on during the month of February. But before we dive into that, let's take a look at what I am wearing. So this is the toaster sweater, or at least a variation of the toaster sweater. It came as a free pattern with the Sewing magazine years ago. So I made this quite a while ago. It is one of the few remaining items of non-natural fibres in my wardrobe. It's a polyester sweatshirting jersey type fabric with this rather fun print all over it, with people and cups of coffee and all that kind of stuff. So it does get a fair amount of wear. It has been clawed up by the cats. There's catches and all sorts on it. So it will at some point get replaced with a fresh fabric. But there's still plenty of wear in it at the moment. The toaster sweater was a pattern that was really popular probably about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. It took me a while to jump on the trend, but yes, it's a fabric that I got from Minerva many years ago when I decided to make that pattern up. So yeah, it does get a lot of wear, particularly at the moment. If the weather warms up ever so slightly, though, it won't get much wear because polyester, not my friend at the moment, but I do enjoy it. So yeah, I'll be looking for another fun print to remake this in, perhaps a nice solid that fits well in the wardrobe, that kind of thing, before I remake it. It was a relatively simple sew as far as I can remember, and judging by the number of seams on it, it can't be a difficult sew. So yeah, so this will probably get made again at some point in a different fabric, possibly a couple of versions, so that I can rotate them in and out. Yeah, so that is what I am wearing. So let's move on to finished objects for February, and there are 2 of them. So we will start down here with my gnome of the month. This is checking my notes, Natalie. Want to say never not gnoming, but I will put the name of the particular Imagined Landscapes pattern on the screen for you. She is a little bit bigger than the January gnome. She is also using leftover yarn from my December gnome. So this is my 3rd gnome out of the same set of 4 minis. Just to give you a sense of how far minis go with the gnome patterns. She's rather adorable. They have a little bit of weighted stuffing in the bottom to hold them up. I really like the way the decreases are done on the bottom. It's a really nice finish. I have slightly overstuffed. Certainly Natalie and Noah, January's gnome, they sit slightly drunkenly on the side, but that's okay, it adds to the charm. So that's February's gnome. I haven't picked out March's gnome yet, but there will be a March gnome. So yes, we'll put her to one side, and we'll take a look at my other finished object, which is also a bit of cuteness. Some of you will have seen this already in a previous video. Meet Tufty. Tufty is a red squirrel. He has been needle felted. So if you are somebody who likes cute things, but also needs a little bit of stress relief, needle felting, mild aggression leading to cuteness. He is from a kit by the Crafty Kit Company, who I believe are based in Scotland. I have done a previous animal kit from them before. I did the hair. I've also done a needle felted picture from them, which was pumpkins. And I had an advent calendar from them a couple of years ago that I need to actually finish the projects for. I did a few during the December, but I didn't get them all done. So that's one of my aims for this year, is to get some more of the advent calendar felted up. But he's rather adorable. It's rather lovely poofy tail at the back. I mean, he's slightly cursed, but still rather adorable. I don't think his arms are in quite the right place, and his head's not quite the right shape. But yeah, he's still kind of cute. We kind of like him. So there's Tufty. Yeah, that's my finished objects. 2 small creatures from the woodlands, which is fine. It's not a race. And Tufty is actually one of my long-standing whips from that initial list of 18 that I made at the beginning of the year, which was just the ones that I could remember at the time I was writing the list. I have since at least doubled that list. As I've been sorting things out, I've come across more long-standing WIPs of like 6 months and longer. I'm just focusing on the original 18 at the moment. Not that I've worked on all of them, obviously, but we're making progress on those 18 first, at least for this quarter. So we'll see where we end up at the end of March and what we do about this longer list. I put them all in a spreadsheet. Administrator here. Put things in a spreadsheet. I like spreadsheets. So I knew what I had. I'm one of these people that if I can't see it, if I don't have it written down somewhere, I forget it exists. Which is why I have ended up with a massive list of long-standing 6 months and older works in progress. Not to mention my more recent works in progress. At least one of which has been hibernating for a few months and is still hibernating for a few months. So if you're tuning in hoping to see the Wellsbury, sorry. So yeah, there's a few different lists, like long-standing WIPs, current WIPs, projects that I would like to do and crafts that I would like to try or return to, which is even longer. But I have them all out in a list, which means that I feel a little bit more in control of what I'm doing, because I can look at my list when I want to start something new and actually see, have I already got a project that fits that particular need on the go that I can pick up and work on? Or is it actually a gap, something that I'm not working on? Is it something that I've already got the materials for or not? Because my list of future projects and wish list of things to try, I've made a note of whether or not I've already got the stuff for it. So that's helping me sort of manage myself a little bit better just by having a record of what I've got on the go and what I've got planned. So hopefully we'll get to a point where, I mean, I'm always going to have multiple works in progress. I've got multiple crafts. Of course I'm going to have multiple projects on the go. But hopefully we'll get to a point where I just feel a little bit less about it all. So yeah, that's my finished objects. And having whittled on about my list of works in progress, let's take a look at some of them. Some of these are long-standing works in progress. In fact, most of them are long-standing works in progress. So this is good. We're chipping away at that list. So far I've completed 3 projects this year off of that list. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 projects here that I've been working on during February that are on that original list of 18 works in progress that are 6 months or more old. So let's start with the knitting. This is a project that I have been chipping away at over the course of the past year. So although it's a long-standing WIP, it is over a year old. It is one that has been getting work on more recently than some of the others. It's in it was a gift bag one Christmas from Fat Face that sweater for my husband came in. But this is my Barragan scarf. It's like a wire scarf, sort of more like a stole. It's a lace knitting project. It's got itself caught in its bag. So I'll just free it from the spare needles for the cast off. This was a knit along that came in the Knitter magazine over the course of 4 issues. It's a lace project and it is in Macintosh yarn. It's a BFL, it's hand dyed. The kit came with a subscription in these lovely 2 colours. Obviously none of it is blocked, so it will open up quite a lot more when I finish. And I mean, it's nowhere near finished and it's already quite wide for the screen. So you start with the middle panel, which is the one underneath my chin. That was section 1. And then you do this section and this section as section 2. I'm currently working on section 3, which is to do this lace pattern at either end. So as you can see, I've completed this end. There is a stitch marker here holding stitches that I've already rescued because I was knitting on this during my online knit night and dropped a stitch or 2. So that's holding them there until I'm finished with this colour and I can come and stitch it down, keep it safe. I have already picked up and worked the connecting border at this end to do this same pattern on this end, and that'll be section 3 done. The 4th and final part of the pattern is a knit-on lace border in this colour. So yeah, we're making good progress. Obviously it's a lace pattern, so you have to be in the right frame of mind to do it, and I probably shouldn't have been doing it on knit night. But it's fine. No one's going to notice when the shawl is actually being worn that there's a bodged stitch somewhere where I dropped some and kind of fudged it to rescue them, because I didn't want to drop down or rip back. Yeah, so it's going to look good when it's done, when it's blocked. Pleased with how it's going. Pleased with the amount of progress that I've made on it, to be fair. Not so long ago, I was still finishing off this first section, and we were talking 4 or 5 months ago. So yeah, quite pleased with that. There are 5 repeats of the lace pattern in this end, so I need to do all 5 at this end, and then we're ready to go around and put the border on. So yay, progress, we like it. So that's the first work in progress for February. I suspect this is still going to be on the needles at the end of March. I mean, if I have got as far as starting the border, that'd be really good. But I suspect I will be not quite on the border. I'm hoping to have at least section 3 done by the end of March. So April, May, hopefully we'll have that one finished just in time for the summer, which is exactly when you need a BFL scarf. At least it's lace. Okay, so that's the knitting work in progress, or what my first knitting work in progress. Let me show you my other knitting work in progress as we are talking knitting. This is my Lopi project. So I'm knitting this in Plutter Lopi yarn, which is the Lopi that comes in this format. And I definitely overbought yarn. I have finished working with this oatmeal colour, and I still have like 2.5 plates left of it. So yeah, definitely overbought, but that's fine. I only bought 1 plate of each of the contrast colours, so now I will have leftovers from that as well, so we'll be working out what we're doing with that later on. So we're on the colourwork yoke. We are almost at the point of decreasing. I've got all 3 colours joined in. I mean, I've only just started adding in the 3rd colour, so it's only in 1 row at the moment. But that is the base of my yoke colourwork. So we're just going up the colourwork chart at the moment. This is a self-drafted pattern. It is going to be a cardigan. So if I show you the front, I have a panel here of where I'm going to be steeking in order to put a zip in, but that won't happen until after the yoke is finished being knitted and the whole garment has been blocked, because I need to measure what length of zip to order, not to mention work out how to put a zip into knitting. But this is yarn that I bought in Reykjavik when I was on honeymoon, so it is quite a special yarn to me. It's a very what they call rustic yarn. It's not next to skin soft. It's going to be an outerwear garment for like spring and autumn. Yeah, it may get somewhere this spring, depending what the weather does. It's only just starting to warm up at the moment. It's like the milder end of winter temperatures. We're just about to start meteorological spring on the 1st of March, which will be the day you're watching this video if you watch it on the day of release. So yeah, warmer weather is still a little way off in the UK, so there may still be some time to get a little bit of wear out of this before it gets packed away for the summer, because it's going to be a super warm top. But yeah, progress is coming along on that. The cat is very interested in it when I'm knitting on it at the moment, which means I'm not getting very much knitting on it in a session if the cat is around, because he comes and sits on the yarn, which would be fine if it wasn't for Plutter Lopi being an unspun yarn. So I can't pull the yarn without it breaking when he's sitting on it. I can split splice it together, which is fine. But yeah, it's just a little less annoying if I can actually knit without the yarn breaking. So yeah, so pleased with how that's coming along. I had hoped to have had it finished by now, but it's not a race, so that's fine. Hopefully we'll get the yoke finished in March so that we can get it steeked ready for April. That would be a good time to do it, April showers and all that. So having an outerwear garment that is not as thick as my fleece lined soft shell coat would be good. Something that's a little bit more breathable as well than that, because again, polyester is not my friend. So yeah, so that's both my knitting projects at the moment. Whilst we're in the realm of fibre, let's take a little look at a crochet project that I've been working on. This project, I think I started it 2021, 2022? Whichever year Gamer Crafting did her Galaxy Blanket Club, because that is the yarn I am using. For Gamer Crafting's Blanket Club, it'll be too late to join for this year. She does a theme each year, and you get 2 skeins per month of whatever denomination of yarn you opted for. So she does minis, she does chunky, she does bulky. I went for the finger weight with the sparkle, and I am using one of each month's skeins to produce a blanket using the same pattern as this beast here. So using the central square of this blanket, the Sophie's Universe, so using Sophie's Garden as the square. Gamer Crafting yarn is heavily variegated, so you might think that's possibly not the best pattern to be using to show off a variegated yarn. It shows off the yarn fine, it's the pattern that gets a little lost. But that's fine, because it's got a lot of texture to it, and I like textured blankets. So we're going more for the texture than the look. Previously, I had already completed January, February, and I believe March. So here we have January. They're clipped together with stitch markers at the corner. We've got January, February, and March. So during February 2025, I have completed April and May. So we're getting there. I've still got obviously the rest of the year to get worked up, and they're quite a sizable square. They take up not quite a full 100-gram skein of fingering weight to do, and they're about a foot square-ish. So 12 of them together, plus whatever joining stitches I use and a border, it's going to make quite a reasonable sized blanket, I think, for sort of throwing over the back of an armchair, wrapping myself in to snuggle up and watch a film, that kind of stuff. That's the plan. And then I need to decide what to do with the other 12 skeins that also came as part of the Gamer Crafting Galaxy Blanket Club. I've probably not got these in the right order, but we'll worry about that later. I have put the remains of each skein back into its ball band and saved them to one side, again to decide what to do with later, but also as a reference for the squares. So if they do get out of order, I can check them against their yarn to make sure that I'm keeping them in the right order. Not that it particularly matters, but that's the plan anyway. So yeah, with Sophie's Garden as the square, you might just about catch some of the texture if I hold it there to the camera. But as I say, these are heavily variegated yarns. So for the visual effect of the squares, it's not the best pattern, but for the texture, it's great. Like it. So yeah, so that's my crochet project. Again, that is one of my long-standing whips, having progress made on it. In fact, all of the remaining works in progress that I have to show you are long-standing whips. So that's actually not too shabby. Let's stick with fibre. I have been doing some spinning this month. So, first up, on my support spindle, which was a Christmas present from my dad and my stepmom a few years ago, so it's a little base, I am spinning up some fibre that I dyed myself. I am recording this early evening, so the indoor lights are on, so you're probably not getting the best accurate to life of the colours. I mean, it's not too shabby. It's not quite as close as it would be in daylight, but we're not far off. This is an entire ply of a 2-ply that I'm spinning up. I can't even remember what the fibre was. Could be Corriedale, could be BFL, could be Merino. Those are the sorts of things I normally spin. I had a sample die kit from World of Wool, which came with a skein of finger weight yarn and a bump of fibre to dye up. So that's where the fibre came from, is where the dyes came from. They're acid dyes, so I've used citric acid. And yeah, I've got my second ply already in its little bubbles, waiting to be spun on the sport spindle once this is done. And then I will be probably putting the 2 plies into a plying ball and to ply them together if I find that easier to manage. Excuse me, I'm rustling, they're in a plastic bag. I find a plying ball easier to manage than trying to sort of mock up a lazy Kate for the spindles, particularly with the support spindle, because I only have the one of them. I have to take the yarn off it in order to spin up the second ply, so then they're not going to be left on the spindle. So mocking up a lazy Kate using spindles just doesn't work. I have to be using knitting needles and stuff. So yes, I find a plying ball is better for that sort of purposes. My other spinning project, I've got fluff tickling my nose at the moment. My other spinning project is also at the second ply stage. This is the second ply on my Turkish spindle. I have my first ply here. This is going to be a 3-ply project, and this I might do a plying ball for, or I might just put my little turtles off my Turkish spindle into mugs and use them as a lazy Kate. I have my 3rd ply here, waiting to be split up into little puffs to spin on the Turkish spindle. This is a John Arbon fibre. For some reason I've moved the label. It might be in the box somewhere, it might be with the other skein. So I've already spun up 1 skein of approximately DK weight with this fibre, which was a 3-ply. So I'm doing the same with the other half of the fibre. It might be a Harvest Hues, I'm not 100% certain because I'm not sure where the label went. If I remember whilst editing, I will put it on screen. So yeah, this will be a 3-ply so that I can use it with the other skein that I've already spun up from this same fibre bump. It's one that I won from a spin and make along that Grace of Babbles Travelling Yarns and Mina the Knitting Expat were running, again, a few years ago. So this is not a new project, it's been on the go for a while, and particularly as I'm counting the 2 skeins as one project. They're the one lot of fibre, and the plan was always to use the whole amount together. So yeah, both skeins count as the one project for that one. So that's 2 spinning projects that are both over 6 months old, on the go, that have had progress made in the month of February. That's the fibre-y stuff done. So the needle felting, the crochet, the knitting, the spinning, all the fibre arts from February that have been completed or worked on or advanced in any way, shape or form. But if you've noticed, there are still a couple of things here that have also had progress made on. Regular viewers may well recognise this fabric, and this is my front and back of my first large quilt. I've done a small wall hanging type quilt before. I've done quilted bags, quilted cushion covers, that kind of thing, but this is my first proper quilt. I will, rather than unfolding these now, I will put up on screen the inserts from a video I did a few weeks ago showing how I was putting the borders on to these fabrics to complete my quilt top and quilt back. So this project, I think, might possibly be my oldest work in progress, at least of the ones that I've found so far. I started this around about when I was training to run the marathon, possibly sooner than that. So in fact, most likely sooner than that. I ran the marathon in 2015. So probably 2014, possibly 2013, this project was started. Using a set of fat quarters that I can't remember where I got them from, that are Edgar Allan Poe themed, mixed, so they're like the bugs and anything with ravens on. They're all the Edgar Allan Poe themed fat quarters, mixed with some batik fat quarters, and then I've bordered them with some Moda grunge fabric, which is this one. So as you'll see on the screen, the front and the back are now completed and bordered and ready to go into a quilt sandwich as soon as I work out what type of wadding I want to buy. I have measured them, I know what size I need to get. I just need to choose the fibre content of the wadding so that I can then get that quilt finished. So do the quilt sandwich, quilt it, bind it, job done. So again, hopefully in the next couple of months that will be done, which will be good to get off the list. Yeah, it's been hanging around for a while and it'd be nice to have it done. Again, it'll be the right sort of size to go, it's throw on an armchair, to use when watching films, that kind of thing. The other long-standing work in progress, which is probably a similar age to be fair, although I may have started this a bit more recently. I may have started this a couple of houses ago. This is a cross-stitch project that I am working on. Just showing it to you like that, you're not going to know how much progress I've done because you haven't seen this in years. So I'll pop on the screen a picture that I took before I started working on this at the beginning of February. So you can see how much I've done in this section of the cross stitch in February. I'm currently working on the third quarter of the pattern, which goes over 2 pages, which is annoying. But also the fabric came pre-cut and pre-serged, so there isn't really enough leeway for me to get the fabric positioned so that I can get the whole quarter or the whole length of the quarter into the hoop at the edge. So I'm going to have to reposition it to do this corner later on, which is fine. It's not a problem. I know a lot of people get on really well with the Q-snaps, which are more of a square rectangular type frame. I don't get on with them very well for this type of a project. I have used them to hold like the wall hanging quilt that I hand quilted that and used Q-snaps for as like a quilting frame. But when the fabric is this thin, I can't get the tension on the corners of the fabric, so it would kind of defeat the object of putting it in a frame, to be fair, for me. But hey, if you like Q-snaps and you enjoy using them, have at it. I prefer hoops. I've been using hoops for embroidery and cross stitch since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. So yeah, I'm comfortable with this. It works for me. It's on an El Bessie stand, so I pop this under my leg and I can use both hands to stitch. I do have a clamp for this stand, so I could, in theory, use a Q-snap on this stand if I got on with Q-snaps, but I don't. So yeah, I do sometimes also just hold a hoop loose in one hand and stitch with one hand, but this way, by having it in a stand like this, I can use both hands, which for this type of a cross stitch is actually kind of handy because of the amount of coverage that we've got. So we've got the top shelf is already done. The first 2 quarters have been done for quite a while. We've got a cat lying in amongst a bookcase. We've got more books in this section and across into the 4th quarter. And here is a statue of an owl that we're just starting to fill in. So we need to get the crosses finished on this section and the back stitch done for this section before I move the fabric to finish this corner off and get the quarter finished. And then we'll be on to the 4th quarter. But I have got quite a bit done during February, so I'm hopeful that this will get finished over the summer. I wouldn't expect it to be done in March. There's just way too much left to do, and it cross stitch is an incredibly slow craft, which is fine. I love it. I've been doing it since I was very small. In fact, through high school, I had a pencil case that I made on my mum's sewing machine that had a panel in the front of little girls that I had cross stitched. So I've been cross stitch for a long time, on and off. I go through phases with cross stitch, as I think most people do with pretty much everything. So yeah, so we'll look forward for this to be finished in the summer, ready to be mounted and framed, and find somewhere to put it in the house. So that is my final work in progress for February. So for a short month, I've actually got quite a bit done, which is pretty good going. Just a quick glance at my list, and yep, that is all the projects that I've worked on during February. It's not the only thing I've done through February craft-wise, but I don't really count the next thing as a work in progress just yet. Now, regular viewers will be familiar with my Bereket sweater, which is a Toku Tiku pattern, and it's knit sideways, so from the cuff to the cuff. And I knit that as part of a knit along last year, which took place largely on Discord. Since recording last month's what I was working on in January video, I've discovered that Aina, who is Toku Tiku, is running a sideways along starting on March the 1st, which is Saturday, so the day that this video drops, for any of her patterns that I knit sideways. So there's accessories, there's garments, there's all sorts. And there's bags, there's sweaters, there's hats, there's scarves. So I am planning to knit at least one, but hopefully two garments by Togi Tiku over the next couple of months. So this knit along starts, or the make along starts on the 1st of March and ends on the 1st of May. So it's a 2-month long along. The Bereket one was longer, I think it was about 3 months last time round. There will be Zoom meetings, there's a Discord server, it's great. So it was a really friendly community last year. The Zoom times last year alternated to accommodate those of us that were in different time zones. I say it was like a 3 or 4 month long make long, at least 3 months. So there they changed the times of the Zooms so that people in different time zones were accommodated. I don't know if that will be happening this time around because it is a shorter along. So obviously it's a bit more difficult to alternate times when you've got fewer of them. And Ina herself is based in the States, as is her moderator. So we'll see what happens there time-wise. I think the first Zoom meeting is like 7 o'clock Eastern time, so I need to work out what that is in the UK. I have a feeling it might be midnight. But it is a Saturday, so we'll see. So the first project that I am going to be casting on for this make-along is a summer wear project. So it does fit in with the focus areas that I allowed myself for new stuff during this first quarter whilst I was working on making progress on my long-standing whips, if I fudge things a little bit. One of the guidelines that I gave myself was that if I was sewing a garment, it needed to be spring or summer appropriate. This is knitting, but it's spring and summer appropriate, so I made my rules, it counts. So first of all, let me show you the yarn. We'll start with the one that I used for the swatch, and we'll grab the other two colours as well. So these are my colours, and this is Scapius. Scapius? It's a Dutch name. I'm not very good at Dutch pronunciation. Scapius yarn, called Sun-Kissed. I've got these 3 colours. It's 100% cotton, so good summer yarn. And I will be making with this the Tanny tank top, which is this pattern here. So it's a sideways knit vertical striped tank top, or vest as we would call it in the UK. Vest or tank top, either's fine. Tank top is specifically knitted, so normally things like sweater vests, as the Americans call them, we would call a tank top, typically in the UK. Obviously the American term is becoming more widely used because internet, TV, films. Yeah, so that's my yarn for the Tanny tank top. So that'll be my first cast on. I'm not expecting that to take an inordinate amount of time to knit. It's a garter stitch project, it has no sleeves. So I'm expecting that to be relatively quick to knit. There's not a lot of complicated stitch work in there. Hopefully I'll get some reading done whilst I'm knitting on it. So I did some swatching with a couple of different needle sizes. So I started with, on this side, the recommended needle size from the pattern, or rather the suggested needle size in the pattern. And I was quite far off the gauge on that one, both rows and stitches. Because we're knitting sideways, the row gauge matters more than it would if you were knitting sort of the traditional way, and knitting to length, because you just measure as you go. But because you're thinking about circumference, the row gauge does matter with sideways knits. So this project, I'm checking my notes, on the larger needle, I achieved the closer stitch count to the gauge. Once it was, I wet blocked it, but was a bit off at that point. So I just gave it a bit of a tug to see what happened, because Cotton's relatively heavy. I'm expecting it to settle a little bit with wear, and when there's more fabric there, there's going to be more weight to it, so it's going to get pulled a little bit more. So I gave it a little bit of a tug, and it settled at 21 stitches per 4 inches. The gauge is 20. So we're not a million miles off there, and I am short-waisted. So I think with proper blocking, that will be fine for the stitch gauge. My row gauge is bang on. So my row gauge is 48 stitches per 4 inches, or rather 48 rows per 4 inches. So that's exactly right. So not too worried about the fit on this one. Shouldn't need to do too many shenanigans. I might do a slightly deeper ribbing if I feel like I need extra length when the garment is knit up, because you do the stripes sideways, and then you pick up ribbing for the arm size, the neckline, and the hem. So if I need a little bit of extra length, I can put in extra length in the ribbing, which will be in this colourway, and then the stripes will be in all 3. So that's the first project. And assuming I get this finished, I would imagine I'd have that finished in March. I can't see it being a long project. I've also had my eye on this pattern that Aina designed for Pearl Soho for quite a while. This is the centre point popover, and it's in a worsted weight yarn, which the pattern calls for a worsted weight yarn. I'm just going to pull up my notes for the other pattern, for that pattern now, just to refer to whilst I'm talking to you. Now, I couldn't find a worsted weight yarn that I liked the fibre content of, the colour of, and the price of. Anyway, I could find variations of those 3 elements. I could find ones that I liked the fibre content and the colour of, but couldn't afford the price. I could find some that I could afford the price, but were either not in a colour that I liked, or not a fibre that I liked. I am at a stage in my life where acrylic doesn't work for me, which is fine. Acrylic has a place. Polyester, like this sweater, has a place. Just not currently for me. But I do have some leftover Holstgarn Tides, which is a wool and silk blend. So the original pattern, I think it's a cotton. No, no, should pull the pattern up next to me. So she's used a wool alpaca linen blend in the original pattern. And I couldn't find anything like that accessible to me over here. But I felt that the wool and the silk would have some similarities in drape quality, that kind of thing. But Holst Tide is quite a fine fingering weight. So I've done quite a large swatch to have a little play around with different combinations. So for funsies, and just to try out the stitch pattern, this is Holst Tide held single to start off with. So this is held single on the recommended or the suggested needle size from the pattern, just to see what it would look like. I do quite like it to make a nice drapey summery top, so that's worth knowing. I could maybe do another version of the Tanny in this at some point, or a Cray Bear Tolster Tee, something like that. Which the Tolster Tee I knit up over the summer in Holst Coast, and that worked quite well, but I had to play around with gauge and things. So I knew that wasn't going to work anyway before I even started. This bit was for funsies. This is after blocking, by the way. My next section was on that suggested needle size, but because I have 3 colours of the leftovers of Tide, so that's why it's mild. I'm not actually going to be doing a mild sweater. So I brought in another colour and held 2 together on that same needle size here. And this time round, now I was looking for a gauge of, where's the gauge? Oh, there it is. 18 stitches and 36 rows to 4 inches. So holding it together on the suggested needle size, I achieved 21 stitches and 36 rounds. So row count was fine. Stitch count was not, and because of the way this sweater is constructed, it seems to, the ridges go in all sorts of different directions. I think it's probably centre out. I've not read through the pattern yet, because why would I? See, I think that's, looking at the pictures, I think it's a centre out construction. So row count is going to matter, stitch count is going to matter, so I've only got it right on one of those. So I decided to try, before I even blocked and knew that I was way off, I decided that I would try a needle size up as well to be on the safe side. So here we have a needle size up from the suggested in the pattern, and again 2 strands held together of the tides, and that gave me 21 stitches per 4 inches, but the 36 strands came to 5 inches after blocking. So for this project, which I'll be casting on once I finish the tanny, so for the centre point crossover, I'm going to be using 2 strands of Holst tights, which I have on order. They're en route from Denmark as we speak. So I'm going to hold 2 double on, for me, 4mm needles. And I'm just not going to block it as aggressively as I blocked the swatch. I'll just soak it and lay it flat rather than pinning it out. And that should get me about right. Or I'll pin it up to measurement, that kind of thing. So yeah, hopefully I've done my calculations correctly and have enough yarn coming to do the version with the sleeves and the hood. If I don't, it may just be the version with the sleeves and no hood. But I would like the hooded version. I can always order more. The Holst garn is fairly affordable and comes pretty quick from Denmark. So hopefully that'll be with me at some point next week. Or possibly the week after if it gets delayed. But yeah, it's come pretty quickly when I've ordered from Holst before. So those are my plans for March and April. 2 knits. And obviously keep working on the projects that I've been working on through February. So hopefully I will have one or both of the spinning skeins spun up. Hopefully I will have a couple more squares done on the blanket, and hopefully I will have the rest of section 3 done on Barragan. If I get the border done on that as well, that would be fantastic, but I'm not anticipating that being lace. And if I am able to order wadding in March, you never know, I might have got the quilt done. I'm not holding my breath. I do have other projects on that list that I also would like to pick up and make a bit of progress on. So we'll see where we go. And I also need to choose a gnome to knit for March, because I'm taking part in Imagine Landscape's Year of Gnomes. So yeah, keep an eye out for the March gnome. So thank you for spending time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. In the meantime, there is this one here that may be of interest to you, and I will see you soon. But until then, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.